That's what I need. Oh, beautiful. Well, my other computer started spontaneously updating in the middle of, if everybody a second to get in here. My other computer started spontaneously updating with the security update from last year. I keep pausing it and pausing it. It's a Windows 10 computer, so obviously I don't want to get anything. I don't want any of the last updates that completely bricked people's Windows 10 computers again, so I figured, hey, let me get rid of it. Let me just keep pausing. No cigar there. Unfortunate. But letting other people filter in here now that they're jumping in. The thing that wait, can you guys hear me? That's another important thing right now. Can you actually hear me? I hope so. God, what a nuisance. Originally I was supposed to do this like 40 minutes ago. I'm curious if it even shows me live right now. Supposedly does. Just do this like. Yep. Compressor doesn't seem to be working, but that's whatever. Not as much I can do about that right now. Last of the crappy audio checks to go here. Those are finished. Now I just need to worry about everything else. So I believe the last thing that I'm working on right now, I'll check to see that the stream is still going, still getting all the, yeah, still getting audio, still getting everything else. So that's the best I could do right now. Just gonna do a live recording of B-Dubs' new article that is going to get turned into an actual video. So afterwards, this live recording is going to get privated. I'm just going to get that for B-Dubs, record it, release it as an actual video. There's a bunch of BroSR blogs and blog receipts and stuff like that, play reports that I want to record. And I think that add a little bit of commentary to them as time goes on. Not for this one, though. This one's just overall. The commentary will maybe be afterwards, but I'll cut out the commentary here, I think, for the most part. Make sure I'm not missing anybody in chat or anything. So as I knock the cobwebs off my vocal cords, it's, man, right now it's rough. My voice isn't what it used to be. I'm not talking as much anymore. But those are the wages. Man, I still love this box art. Box art, no, the cover art for Winning Secrets is coming out. So B-Dubs sent me this article basically going over some of the events of Umbros recently because I never did a video for the Session 2 Braunstein. B-Dubs ran a Session Braunstein of his own. And there have been several events and several regular, just like character level sessions that have happened in this game since then, run by two other DMs. I feel a little bit bad about it. Basically, letting my Pathfinder 2nd Edition game atrophy a little bit because I've hardly been running sessions there. I used to do like twice a week. Right now, I've been more or less skipped it for the past few weeks. But one of my other players became a DM in that game to help that keep going along. And now this one is, and then some of the other DMs have come back as well, just to kind of ease the pressure off and keep the game going, which I hugely appreciate. And they've been having tons of fun. So now I don't need to worry as much right now. I'm in less of a state of terror at the moment, if that makes sense. Hey, Bradford Walker, you're listening to Bernie Sanders talk to a robot. What the hell? My condolences. My condolences. Let's get this article going as well. And what I'll do is I'll pop out the chat just to do a spot where I can still see it. Live chat. Why does it not? Why does it only show top chat? Doesn't show the top chatter in regular top chat? That makes no sense. Whatever. Whatever. I'm gonna slide it over. And here goes. We've got an introduction. The title of this article, by the way, is "The Winning Secrets to Having a D&D Campaign with Wargaming." Main subject, because we finally got a few wargamers. Well, why am I going to preface it anymore? We've got the introduction right here. So for years, perhaps decades, a certain refrain has echoed through the halls of Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPG world. D&D is a wargame. The claim is correct, though seldom understood. D&D is indeed a wargame, yet in practice, its players will rarely engage in a genuine wargame unless Braunstein principles are brought to bear. A Braunstein is a game mode in which there are multiple independent actors operating in potential conflict under a fog of war. Credit to Griff Morgan and Jeffro Johnson. The game mode itself was first tried by David Wesley back in the dark old days before his game inspired Gygax and Arneson to create D&D. All of that, however, lies in the past. What concerns us here is the present and future of real D&D play. More precisely, how you, yes you, may employ the Braunstein approach to run campaigns that keep your players engaged in playing actual games, right? Including wargame battles at your real or virtual tabletop. Now, the Broasar has been experimenting with the Braunstein form for about 3 or 4 years now. A great deal of real and digital ink has been spilled about the Braunstein form by the Broasar and by Jeffro Johnson, its chief architect and interpreter. That Jeffro, myself, B-Dub 1776, and Rule of Thule have written an entire book called Winning Secrets on the subject. But this work is not concerned with the recent history of the Broasar. Ever since the book was written, new ideas have arisen that carry Braunstein play to a still higher form. The new concepts in question are called docketing, originally created by myself, B-Dub 1776, Goss, originally created by Doomstone Crom, and Scene, originally created by DM Sirius. To understand these concepts, you will need to completely change the way you imagine a D&D campaign. To interject here, I really like that we still have access to most, if not all, of these people. In 10 years, a lot of these people will be off Twitter, offline, not engaging in the community, off doing other things besides, wasting their time with tabletop RPGs and trying to improve the game for people who do not appreciate it and don't want to appreciate it. And there will still be people who want to fix problems, and they'll look up an old blog post, see this and say, hey, this is great. I wish that I could still get in contact with the person who wrote this. And there are communities, there's a lot of communities like that, actually. It's cool to be here while it's still happening. I feel lucky. Moving on, stop conceptualizing D&D in the conventional manner of 4 best friends getting together with their adventuring party to tackle a series of challenges presented by their forever DM, Pat. Pat Pal, my goodness. I'll put these back on. At this point, I need it. Mr. Bradford Walker says, by the way, actual demagogue was 5 minutes behind. I got suspended from Twitter. Someone thinks I'm a bot. Appeal file, but we'll see. Myself, JD Cohen, and a few others got nailed like that during back-end X-Grok changes. I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. Very sorry to hear that. So stop conceptualizing D&D in the conventional manner of 4 best friends getting together with their adventure party to tackle a series of challenges presented by their forever DM pal. Start conceptualizing D&D as a Bronstein, where those four-player characters, PCs, may level into domains with competing and opposite interests. When the paladin gains a holy empire and the thief takes over a thieves' guild, those characters will necessarily work at odds. Bronstein play helps you play and adjudicate this competition. You may say, I don't like PvP or my PC always cooperates with the other PCs, but if you refuse to pursue the interest of your PC simply because it will bring him into conflict with other PCs, you're not role-playing. Recently, in my campaign of Umbros, based on my free module set in the primeval world of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Hollow Earth setting, there was a massive wargame that resulted directly from real D&D, meaning Bronstein play. You can download a free PDF copy of Umbros here. I will describe how that happened and how I adjudicated it, how co-DMs ran it, and how the players played it. But first, I need to explain these esoteric terms to initiate you into the greatness of Pro-SR thought. Docketing. Let's start with docketing. So, when you run a real Bronstein style D&D campaign, players will begin to work at odds. Sometimes this happens naturally. Other times the DM deliberately constructs the campaign world, as I did, with high-level faction leaders run by real players who begin play already at odds. They will often send out armies, agents, or schemes that inevitably collide with one another in convergence. Resolving these conflicts instantly at the main table or over private message often reduces them to a coin flip or a single die roll, draining away the very drama that makes Bronstein-style play exciting. Docketing is the referee's remedy, a way to log these clashes so they can be played out later as a full war game, skirmish, or roleplay confrontation. By docketing, the referee preserves momentum at the campaign level while ensuring that no factions or PC's moves are trivialized. To do this, the referee creates a sort of scenario sheet based on the downtime orders or in-session results he achieves. It will list the factions, the troops, and the officers involved, the date in the game world when the actual wargame battle is to happen, and any special stipulations for the wargame battle. Then, not only can the referee or a co-referee oversee the wargame battle, the battle itself can have any other person play any side of the conflict. The actual players of those factions or PCs or whatever do not need to be the ones who show up to play out the scenario. The penalty to the original players in this case could be you simply having their forces quagmired in some way until such a time that the battle is played out. Lastly, you are not required to only docket battles due to downtime orders. You, as the referee, can choose to docket a battle decided upon due to session play or actions during a session Bronstein. You also don't need to docket wargame battles only. You can docket skirmish fights or even roleplay style meetings between the PCs or faction leaders. As you explore and use docketing, more ways of using it than even I imagine will occur to you. That's on Umbro's page 69. Nice. If you're a tabletop gamer with red blood in your veins, this will all sound very exciting, but real Bronstein-style D&D play had a major problem of the fog of war part of the Bronstein being so thick that no one even knew enough of what was going on around the game world to react to it. This is, jumping in for a second, super relevant to a couple of dockets that we did recently, that I did very recently. Sorry, I really do need this. Hear it in my voice getting shakier as time goes on. My goodness. So after the second session Bronstein, we were wrapping up and I had to go to work very soon at the time that we were playing. And we found ourselves in two separate fights all at once. One was just a simple one-on-one fight between this like psychic velociraptor, psychic like winged velociraptors, winged dinosaur style critter called one of the Mahar. That's taken sort of directly from Edgar Rice Burroughs' work and the Hollow Earth setting. One of these psychic sisters, part of a faction that will cut up various parts of humans, dwarves, elves, and whatnot, and stitch them back together in vats. It's very American fantasy. The idea of like, cutting people apart and having vats, having magical science kind of be the default the default approach, especially of a lot of antagonists for maintaining minions and armies. And what was it? So there was a one-on-one fight between one of these sisters who psychically control all of her entourage with her, and one of the dwarves. I think it was Iron Sword or whatever his name was, and he won this fight. She barely failed to escape. She tried to like psychic mind blast him or whatever. He rolled a save. He was fine, and she ended up swiping at him. I think a couple times that didn't work. She tried to flee, which provoked another attack of opportunity. I think we rolled for her hit points, and she only had 24 for some reason. And literally down to the last hit point, he successfully kills her. This is the middle of a session broad scene, so we have a bunch of different voice rooms around the area. And I come back to see what's going on in the main hall, and I come back to find that the big whoever's playing Prince Ronan, who's kind of like the centerpiece, you could say of the Bronstein, but especially this session, it's the summit where he summons all the other faction leaders to say, I have this, I've received this magical parchment, this prophecy. I'm going to open it up in front of you to see what's going on here. So everybody is aware, and we could all kind of, have draw our lines in the sand here about what we want to do with one another, because whatever's in this parchment could be really important, and in fact it is. And basically the parchment says, hey, I elect, the entity that composes this this timekeeping stone in the center of the earth, say I elect Prince Ronan kind of as my champion. I require all to bow to him, which is a hell of a thing to start off with. Prince Ronan in the other room, as I come back from this other one-on-one fight, I find him poisoned and being attacked in like an unarmed combat scenario. Now, all the entourage from the psychic, whatever, are promptly going to go insane, and I know this while I'm resolving the battle between, which is only 2 rounds between what's a fake faction leader who's sent there actually to assassinate Prince Ronan, and Prince Ronan himself, and it takes about 2 rounds. And I know that I don't have like the chops basically in AD&D to say, hey, I'm going to run this small skirmish fight in less than like the 15 minutes that I had. So I just kind of ignored it for the moment. I said, okay, the one-on-one fight I can do immediately in the 15 minutes that I have. But afterwards, I'm going to say, hey, there's going to be this fight. It's a smaller fight. It's skirmish scale between the guards and the remains of the Mahar entourage, who are going to run forward. They're going to try to get to the body of this sister. I think I stole this from Steven Eriksson's Malzahn series, which has a kind of has a a race that's in parallel to this. I can't remember what the name of that race was, but I think it comes basically from the same place because Malzahn's like a retread of American fantasy in particular, where if one of the mind raptors in her entourage could get to the body, they're not trying to kill everything around them. They're going to try to kill whatever's in front of them and see if they can make it to the other side of the room. So it's an asymmetrical fight. And if one of the mind raptors can get over there and eat the brain of the fallen sister, then it will turn into the sister. The idea that it absorbs the knowledge and the personality and memories and sort of some of the physiology that's encoded into the brain. It starts transforming, and then it will fly away. And that's kind of a way of like keeping this one faction leader or sub leader, lieutenant, in the game. And it worked, kind of. There were a lot of complaints from people I was going to docket with, from like, oh, this isn't like a real war game. You could have just played this out at the table. It's like, bro, I had to go to work. I really didn't have time. It was just supposed to be this fun thing that a bunch of other people could do. I wasn't as high pressure or aggro on it as I could have been or should have been. But B-Dubs, when he ran his session Bronstein, was, and he got a fantastic war game docket that we're going to learn about later in this one. But first, We have the Goss subsystem. So, to pierce the fog of war without drowning the game in complex subsystems, Doomstone Crom introduced a brilliant method called Goss. I described it in Umbros as follows. Rather than relying on difficult subsystems like those found in other fantasy adventure games produced recently, Goss focuses on a simple resolution method of one dice roll for each major action taken. All the referee needs to do is gather all the downtime orders, or even in session orders, the various PCs and faction leaders take, then make a single check for each action, then create a campaign news report for that action. Umbros page 72. For the Umbros approach to Goss, you roll an 8-sided die for each action a PC or faction leader or whatever takes in your game world. Then report the actions to a news channel on your Discord server or verbally if you're playing in person for each game world turn. Here are the possible results which will inform the DM's news report. 1. Public knowledge. 2 to 3 is target secret. 4 to 5 is false rumor, 6 to 7 is a hidden action, and 8 is deception and framing. I need not elaborate on how every role can create the possibility of exciting convergences. I'm going to take a step back for the moment because I will elaborate for a second. Public knowledge, obviously, if you roll that, everybody on the map is going to know this is what this guy's doing. 2 to 3 is target secret, which I believe is that the target gets to know, but not everybody on the map knows, including the person who's actually taking the action. They don't get to know. 4 to 5, false rumor. That's where you get to basically go ahead and, like, you get to be in charge of, you get to set the terms, you or the referee. I've interpreted this both ways. Hello, Otherworld Original DDC Clubhouse. That's a long-ass name, but hi. Appreciate having you here. I need not elaborate on how every role can... Yeah, I was going to... Sorry, I didn't do the false rumor thing. The false rumor, I interpret that as the DM gets to set the terms of what the false rumor is going to be. The referee does. That's how I've handled it in the middle of session Braunsteins. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't know. You'd have to... You can interpret that multiple ways, but if it's further elaborated in the book itself, then obviously go with what the book says. 6 to 7 is hidden action, so where nobody else gets to know. Like, you know that what you're doing and nobody else knows, and you don't have to have like a cover story in any capacity. 8, deception and framing. This is why I thought that the false rumor result was the referee's purview, and why 6 to 7, this in combination with 6 to 7, hidden action being kind of like that's ultimately secret. The fact 8 seems to be deception and framing, where you, the player specifically, not the referee, gets to set the tone, gets to set the rumor, the lie. They get to set up the lie that covers their order. That's my interpretation. But back to the article. I need not elaborate on how every role can create the possibility of exciting convergences, because the referee will need to use his best judgment to avoid absurdity within Goss. A massive army marching outside the city's gate can't be a hidden action. An assassination attempt, which is well played out and rolled with the best possible result for the assassin, shouldn't become public knowledge, and players successfully spying from the rules as written should be able to see through false rumors or deception and framing. Yet, with Goss, the referee has a powerful tool to assure his Braunstein-style campaign simmers with excitement and occasionally explodes with action, whether his players are trying to hide from each other or not. And that's correct, because jumping out again, it can be tedious, it can be tiresome to constantly ask players, hey, are you looking for anything secret? Are you looking for anything secret? If you do it all the time and there's no secret information, then they get annoyed. They feel like it's wasting time, because ultimately, yes, you maybe are wasting a little bit of time at least. And when the players are... But if you don't do that all the time and you're only asking them when there's something secret to be found, it gives up the game a little bit. A little bit. That's always, by virtue of taking any kind of investigative actions, that's always a risk. But if you yourself are only ever asking when the players are looking, when the players ought to look, then you're giving them more information than maybe they need. You're kind of tear, you're asked by asking, you're kind of tearing the veil away, and that's not the ideal. Gauss is like a happy medium. The Gauss method seemed revolutionary at the time I wrote Umbros, but it has two problems which every DM will contend with. One, the DM will need to be very creative very frequently with his Gauss-generated news reports. Two, there may be less player buy-in since the DM will be creating much of the world in news. And both of these problems are addressed with Scene. So Scene, created by DM Sirius for his Drakenheim campaign in 2025. Scene is an incredible and deceptively simple evolution of Gauss. With Scene, you run Gauss as normal, but instead of the DM writing the news report, the player is tasked with doing so. Additionally, to help prevent the player from turtling to avoid conflict, the action the player took does not truly occur until it is seen. A small change, no, yet this small change produces remarkable results. First, the DM is no longer the sole arbiter of the world's narrative when it comes to inventing or engaging or fair news stories. Second, players who are tasked with writing news reports about their own actions develop far greater investment into the game world. They begin to relish opportunities for psyops when they are given results such as the false rumor or deception and framing. Soon, players begin to consider their actions carefully, knowing that whatever they attempt may eventually be seen. Most importantly, when Gauss and Scene operate in tandem, the result is transformative, a game changer, a game world changer, and I have a simple scenario from a real Umbros Braunstein campaign to prove it. This is where we fight. Before I go on, I'm going to take an opportunity to take a small drink here. Anybody confused? Anybody have questions so far? Please ask me questions, even if you're not confused. Because I do look forward to and enjoy them. But this is also my fault for not running the stream on time, having technical difficulties. God, that was still insane. I'm still very pissed off, but it's a live recording, so this is going to get turned into a video. Yeah, I know that you don't play the TTRPGs, Demagogue. It's okay. I won't need you for the stealth drops and stuff like that later tonight because I started off so late. I'm going to save that for another evening. Probably after or during a WIC panel, I think. Rapper Walker says this should be used for when players do things like spell research, recruiting, etc. Yeah, it actually would be kind of fun if that were the case. And it is, honestly. Like, if I open up AsherCreativity.app, what do I go to? Chronicles, current broadsheets, campaign Tales Archive. There we go. So there's a ton of session reports. A bunch of those got accidentally duplicated. That's something that can't be prevented. Well, it can be prevented, but just isn't my top priority. Actual Demagogue says, for what it's worth, I'll be up all night. Hey, I'll be chatting in Whitcord, I think, probably after this, if there's still people in there. But we'll see what happens. I'll be chatting in Whitcord and maybe in my Discord afterwards as well. We'll see. Cameron has a downtime for Quell Unrest. What do we got? It's a character campaign, Chilmus Valley, action type Quell Unrest, date range from January to February. Got a few roles, Politics 24, Quell Unrest 21 and 29. Description, there was one kingdom event in which squatters evicted some folks from their home. Quite unpleasant business and wasn't handled very well, and so made a few folks upset. They were a bit unhappy the first month, but calmed down nicely in the second. All is well, and all manner of things shall be well. Which is a little interesting. And this is like an action, that's like a downtime action for, like a kingdom in the Pathfinder 2nd edition sense. But here's another one from the same character, actually, which is Nina. Or sorry, from the same player running a different character. This is Nina. Wait, is that? No, I can't remember if No. Nina is played by Hard. Earn income, very simple. Role engineering lore 21. Description: Nina does some fixing of people's weapons, vehicles, and such things, and does a spectacular job. A lot of folks quite like her handiwork, right? That's an example of scene, and all this is connected to my website, so I can freely kind of scroll down and read all of them, which is quite nice. And I gotta see, am I able to all patrons? Oh yeah, everybody who submits, I think, gets added to the entries, and I could start like just reading down, which actually I really like. All campaigns, Chomas Valley, Lords of. Yeah, I wonder. We'll see. But back to the article. So, the Battle of the Three Armies. I serve as the referee who adjudicates the downtime orders in an ongoing Umbros campaign. Back in February, Ferrigno, the Green Dragon, sent me a downtime order declaring that he would infiltrate the vault of the Dwarf Lord Cointhrall and poison the dwarves' water supply. Goss determined that Ferrigno did not get away with this without being seen. When I informed Ferrigno that he had been discovered during his operation, he fled the vault, his Dragon Fear ability scattering nearly all of the dwarves present and preventing them from mounting a serious attack. However, the Goss role for the event came up false rumor. Because of this, I allowed Cointhrall to compose the scene post describing what the world would hear about the incident. He provided the following report, which implied Ferrigno had been severely injured. Ferrigno was driven out of his surprise attack on Gold Hall by the staunch dwarven defenders. Several witnesses attest that blood poured from the massive gash along the dragon's flag. Three great cheers for Cointhrall as he addressed his sons, his enchanted blade still smoking with the green beast black blood. Let it be known by that once Ferrigno drove us from our halls, but never again. The king has returned to his throne, and it'll take more than that to remove him. Many oaths of vengeance for the trespass into the dwarves' hallowed halls follow, promising to finish off Ferrigno once and for all. During the week of 3/10/26, March 10th, 2026, I received the following orders, paraphrased. Ferrigno the Green Dragon ordered that he and his Vineling horde would fly south towards the wizard tower owned by Tooch the Archmage. He would cross over the Downlands to get there. Cointhrall, the Dwarven Lord, ordered he would be marching like 100 dwarves out into the center of the Dawnlands to meet up with Hibobu, the merchant's army. They then proceed to Ferrigno's lair and attack Ferrigno. Hibobu the merchant would take his Thag riders and his elite guard to meet with Cointhrall in the center of the Dawnlands. He'd then march with Cointhrall onto Ferrigno's lair and attack Ferrigno. I suspect that Hibobu chose to join Cointhrall in his venture because he believed that Ferrigno had been badly wounded thanks to the previous scene post. So the idea is, jumping out of the article for a second, if the player has the ability to set their own falsehoods and people trust, and because players are required to generate their own news reports to have their orders considered like real out in the world, that's what the idea that B-Dubs is getting at here is that has a manifest impact on other people's decisions, other players' decisions within the campaign. So this isn't just like it's nice. It's a narrative improvement to the campaign. It makes it easier for other people to follow along. But the fact that you can intentionally deceive the people following along has its own additional impact on actions within the campaign. So the fact that you're making something for public consumption isn't just this extra work. It's literally built to further the interest and the exciting moments within that campaign. Solid State Games Oz says, are the names of these systems acronyms? Yes. Yes, they are. I don't know if they're both defined here. Goss, no. Scene is also not just like the acronym isn't defined in this article, which it doesn't need to be, so that'll be fine. I'm going to do 2 separate videos on that as well. Just Goss and Scene, so I guess I'll go like further into those. I'm going to scroll back here. Take another drink of water. My goodness. Probably gotta buy a throat coat at this point. Accordingly, I created a docket with the following summary. Ferrigno, while flying south from the Glarewood towards the Purple Hills, came across a group of dwarves from Cointhrall's vault. They were mustering at this location with Hibobu and some of his contingent. Ferrigno begins battle on ground, being lazy as he was becoming bored and tired of waiting on his infantry, who are so much slower than him. Ferrigno should have limited time to prep for battle, as due to his frustration with his infantry's slow pace, he was pondering a nap. He is not fully surprised, but he did not see the other army coming from far off. I provided orders of battle, with one army being Ferrigno and about 70 Vinelings, the other army being Cointhrall, about 100 dwarves, 2 ballistae, Hibobu and his shiny guard of elite fighters, and about 10 elite thag riders. Thags are like giant dinosaur bull things that are used as draft and war mounts in Umbros, because there's no horses or hounds or things like that. Typical mundane draft stock or draft beasts of burden are not used. They use dinosaurs because it's Journey to the Center of the Earth, Journey to the or sorry, not Journey to the Center of the Earth, the Hollow Earth series. Goss and Scene are defined in Broser and Umbros. Also, Luco's a solid guy and a good board game player. He's in my tower campaign. That is wonderful to hear. See, I've had the following special instructions. Ferrigno values his Vinelings, but he will not lose his life for them. Will flee if he takes half HP damage. Hibobu is a thief/merchant, so he will hide if he takes any damage or is targeted with missile attacks. This is something that's also really important that I'm going to I'm just going to speed through the rest of the article here. When I produced the Wargame docket, I didn't have enough of these details. People got confused. One of the people who were playing through the article, also somebody who was complaining at the same time about its small skirmish size, but kindly agreed to fight through it anyways, thought for some reason that a bunch of people that the full faction's forces were at the summit rather than the forces that I had laid out. Because I had worded it I used multiple synonyms for the people who were there. Yeah, I had multiple synonyms for the people who were okay, it's the Sisters of Srith. And I would say in the description, the rest of the Mahar are the insane Mahar. Also, the fact that they weren't really able to strategize wasn't clearly laid out. So the fact that they were insane, and I could have said something like, "Hey, under the effects of a confusion spell," or "as per the effects of a confusion spell." I could say these forces are affected by or fight as per the effects of a confusion spell, but don't target one another. I could have those. If I'm going to put restrictions on it, they need to be specific. B-Dubs actually made them specific here. And as a result, I think that people were, one, much more willing and excited to jump on the Wargame docket. And two, if multiple people had jumped on the Wargame docket, then it's still less likely that you're going to have not wildly divergent outcomes in terms of the who wins and who loses. It's okay for those to be divergent, but divergent, you're going to have less outcomes that diverge kind of from the premise of the scenario. Because remember, a lot of times wargamers are not going to be in the session that produces this wargame docket, so they don't have the context surrounding it. It's very easy to, if you're not being specific, which I wasn't specific, very easy to misinterpret some of the things in there and just kind of waste time, waste space. You have to take things that okay, if somebody gets something wildly wrong, they have a bunch of forces there that aren't actually there as per the battle. Now you have to interpret the outcome of the battle because you got to keep things moving. It's so much better to just be more specific. And B-Dubs, I think, proved that very effectively here. Which makes me excited. It makes me excited to DM it because I'm going to be honest with you. I lost a lot of steam after that second thing because I said, okay, here's a wargame docket. It's going to be cool for a bunch of people to get in on this. And it just got really crapped on like all over ostensibly friendly accounts. So that was kind of frustrating. But now we're back. So I just got to follow in Beat Up's footsteps, which is always good advice to do, anyways. I circulated the docket among players in the Umbros Discord server as well as a few other servers with the instruction that the wargame battle would require a referee to run it. I did not volunteer for the role. Around March 8th, 2026, the battle was played out. The players representing Ferrigno, Cointhrall, and Hibobu recruited a referee who goes by the Discord name Luco Lionheart. Keep in mind, it is not necessary for the players who sent the downtime orders and normally play those faction leaders to be the ones who play out the wargame battle itself. We can assume the threat of having their forces quagmired inspired them to move quickly to recruit Luco to the referee. After the game, Luco sent me the results on March 9th, 2026, including a round-by-round breakdown of orders and outcomes, along with final troop losses. I rolled Gauss to determine how news of the event would be spread and receive public knowledge. So I composed a report for the Umbros News Network channel. I chose not to assign a scene post to any player in this case, since it made more sense for me to condense the lengthy battle report that Luco provided. And the Umbros News Network carried the following account. Across the domains of Umbros, word spreads of a mighty clash in the Dawnlands. Ferrigno the Green Dragon met Cointhrall, Dwarf Lord of Goldhold, in open battle, and the field ran red before the day was done. Both rulers marched with large hosts. The Gem Sons of Goldhold came ready with engines and axes to bring down the ancient worm. Ferrigno answered with ranks of vinelings, eager to bind and crush their foes beneath living vines and brambles. A third power was present as well. Hibobu, I love that name, marched from the south with disciplined footmen and powerful thag riders, joining his strength with the dwarves as soon as their forces advanced north to meet the dragon. It's time for more water. This is what I mean by knocking the cobwebs off my vocal cords. So Ferrigno was the first to act. Though the dragon is often accused of indolence, he moved with sudden purpose, twisting through the sky while Dwarf Ballistai hurled bolts towards him. His clumsy flight maneuverability did not allow him to essentially teleport across the field like so many lesser game systems. Thank you, 1E. He instead picked up speed towards the Dwarven ranks. On the ground, the battle unfolded in violent strokes. The Thag riders burst from cover and thundered towards the Vineling left flank. Hibobu's footmen pushed up forward to strengthen the Dwarven formation, while the Stone Guard prepared for their charge. When the Thags crashed into the Vinelings, the slaughter was immediate. Tusks tore through vines and brambles, and dozens of the plant creatures fell beneath the assault, while the Thags bellowed to the curved skies. At the same moment, the Stone Guard surged forward and smashed another host of Vinelings into ruin. For a brief moment, the field rang with dwarf victory cries. Then Ferrigno arrived. The dragon closed the distance in a single terrible rush and loosened a torrent of burning acid across the field. Lord Cointhrall and all the warriors beside him were engulfed in the corrosive storm and fell where they stood. Shock rippled through the dwarven ranks as word spread that their lord had been slain. The line faltered and began a hard fighting withdrawal. Even the Dwarf Ballistai crews abandoned their engines in the chaos. Seeing the field broken, Ferrigno turned his wings northward, content to leave the shattered Vinelings to whatever fate awaited them. Yet before the dragon could escape, the dwarf hero known as F4 seized Cointhrall's Dragonslayer sword. With grim resolve, he bound the blade to a ballistic bolt and drew back the great engine for one desperate shot. The field fell silent. F4 released the bolt. It screamed through the air towards the retreating worm and missed its mark. Ferrigno's laughter echoed across the Dawnlands as he vanished into the northern sky, satisfied that at last his ancient enemy, Lord Cointhrall, lay dead upon the field. The survivors of the battle scattered, and the tale of the three armies now travels from hall to hall throughout Umbros. In conclusion, whether the PCs were the first level dungeon delvers venturing forth under DM Dundermoose, faction leaders participating in the occasional Braunstein session with DM Gelatinous Rube, that's me, or simply men submitting downtime orders, to me, the players were astonished and excited by what this event meant for Umbros. None of it would have been possible without docketing. It would not have come together without Goss, and it scarcely would have mattered to anyone beside the immediate participants without Scene. Together these, let me read that again. None of it would have been possible without docketing. It would not have come together without Goss, and it would have scarcely mattered to anyone beyond the immediate participants without Scene. Yep, I miss it up again, but we'll keep that one. Together, these methods of running a real D&D campaign have produced something rare, a Braunstein-style fantasy world that lives, moves, and rewards those bold enough to adventure within it. Will you try it, or will you keep playing in conventional, meaning boring, D&D games? That is the end of the article here. My goodness. Solid State Games Oz says so. Triceratops. Oh, you might be a little bit further behind. What is it? I think the Thags specifically, I think the Thags are not Triceratops. I think they're Stegosaurus, and the reason I say that is that there's a Far Side comic with a bunch of this is like three references deep. Ostensibly there's a Far Side comic of it, which is a comic series that I don't think anybody under the age of 30 nowadays is aware of. Probably the age of 40, of a bunch of cavemen sitting in like a modern style classroom with like a projector, and the lead caveman at the front is pointing to the end of a Stegosaurus, which a Stegosaurus is the dinosaur that has a bunch of supposedly had a bunch of spikes on the back end, and supposedly for defensive purposes. And the caption is, and this end here is called the Thagomizer, after the late Thag Simmons. And the funny thing is, scientists, again, ostensibly, this is how the story went, scientists didn't have a name for this end. They didn't have like a specific colloquial name. So after this comic came out, which might have been anywhere, it might have been the 80s or 90s, who knows, they adopted that name of the Thagomizer, after the late Thag Simmons. Right, like it killed. This is the end that killed Thag, so we named it after him. And then the scientists who were, in charge of the taxonomy, I guess, decided to start calling it that, which is hilarious to me. Mr. Bradford Walker says there are illustrations of various Pellucidar creatures out there. I wonder, the Thags or Aurochs I was completely off base. I assumed it was the Thagomizer because I assumed that it was Stegosaurus because of the Thagomizer story, but I was totally off. Totally off. Ostensibly, yeah. Thag Sumio Wiki. Oh, let's bring that back up. Too many ads. Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous there. Oh! Yeah, it's an Auroch. It's a massive bull. Now, I don't know if that was how Betos interpreted it, but still pretty cool. Not like a normal cow. Yeah, the sentient pterodactyl critters. Or I believe or those I believe that compose the Sisters of Srith and the last of the Mahar. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. I'm going to chop this up into an actual video, and then this stream will be privated. Sorry again for being late and gay in this case, because gosh, that really screwed over my plans here. Any other questions before I end here, though? Why don't we take these off? Maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe that's not a good idea. So I'm going to end here. Thank you guys for tuning in. And this, like I said, I'm going to private the stream probably in a couple of days here. And then I'm going to upload the actual video sometime tomorrow, depending on what kind of work I have to do there. But thank you again for tuning in. I'll see you.